Welcome back. Another episode in my channel, on my channel, whatever. We're here. Unfortunately for a lot of you tactical people, it's another off-road video. But I can assure you, we got a belt set up and a rifle setup coming soon. One of my favorite rifles, 14.5 BCM. It's not a super complicated build, so it's not going to be a super long video, but I think you'll still enjoy it. The video we're going to be going over, I've had some footage on for months and months. ADS racing suspension is the suspension I used on my truck, along with Deaver for leaf pack and MCM upper control arms. I filmed a little bit of the install with Tyler from ADS. The mullet is so on point. You guys are going to enjoy the hell out of that by itself. But anyway, we filmed a lot of tips and tricks and advice when it comes to making the install and the choice that you make in terms of suspension. So I'm going to push it over to Tyler here real quick. We're going to go over he's going to go over the install real quick. I am filming it for him. And then once that's done, I will give you a short synopsis of what I've seen in the last 7-8 months I've been running the suspension. Fantastic suspension. I went with ADS mainly because it's local, it's US made. If you want a quick tour of the shop and how things operate, head over to Light Bright on YouTube. It's more of a Jeep channel, but they run ADS and they have a great walkthrough with Tyler at the shop. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the mullet man himself, Tyler from ADS Racing.
Put a bunch of stuff on Mason's truck. We're going to put our coilovers on the front, MCM's upper control arms, some Deaver springs out back that are made for all the additional weight that he's added, and the corresponding smooth body shocks that go with it. I wanted to show real quick, he's got a spacer lift, right? Everybody wants to do the budget boost lift kit. You can see these wear marks where the tire's been touching everything, and the spring's actually been rubbing on the upper control arm. The reason being is these things overextend your factory components way too far beyond where they need to be. So all of our stuff, even our extended travel, is still very safe. It doesn't overextend anything, gives you maximum performance with maximum component life. And that's really important. Like, yeah, you get a lift with this, but you're also destroying all of your other components. I just want to point that out real quick. We're going to rip this off, and then I'll show you guys how to put our coilover on. Everything out. Stock struts out, upper control arms out. You know, anybody that's ever done a Tacoma knows that this bolt is a pain in the butt to get out. It's out. That's your stock arm, stamped steel, rubber bushings, little ball joint. They're decent. They're not too bad, but they have limitations. They have clearance issues. You can see where it was rubbing. I mean, honestly, just buy a new arm if you're going to do any upgrades. These things get wore out, and it's almost cheaper to buy an aftermarket one than pay somebody to rebuild this one, if you can even do it. I don't even know. I haven't ever put a stock one back on. What we have here is MCM Fab's upper control arm for 05 to current Tacoma. Big heavy duty uniball, stainless spacers. This is a FK uniball, made in USA. You can see the little stamping on it. It's good stuff. It's all TIG welded. You can see on the factory arm, it has this bolt hole for your ABS line, and it uses this bracket. You take this bracket off, and it has a sexy little tab on there, and we're gonna zip tie our ABS line to it after removing the stamped steel thing. So we'll get this thing in there, we'll get the new strut in there, and we'll show you some more stuff soon. All right, on the subject of the bracketry that comes with your truck, everything's included in our kit to bolt it directly on. It's all labeled driver or passenger. I got the passenger side right now. Your sway bar blocks, they're marked left and right. All trucks, all automotive stuff, the driver's seat is your left side. So you're sitting in the truck, left, right. That's how everything's figured out. So this would be our passenger side. It's the right side. We're not going to run the sway bar on this truck, but the orientation of these things goes reservoir bracket up against the frame. You bolt this in with the factory bolts, and then you relocate your sway bar bracket here off of these bolt holes. So what it does is it moves it forward and away so your linkage doesn't rub on your spring. That's how that goes. It's as easy as that. If you have a 4Runner, you're going to get another kit that has another option. Toyota has 2 different spreads on the sway bar mounting, so that'll be the difference there. So factory bolts up into the frame to retain the bracket that we provide, and then normally these would be going through the block, you know, up through here. We've been running into clearance issues. Toyota has this extra washer. If you get that washer off of there, then you don't have the height difference. I'll put that in the instructions as well. Coilovers in, we got our upper arm in, reservoir brackets on. Now we're gonna mount our reservoir. You'll notice that it's kind of twisting everything funny, and that's because we don't have a truck to fit every coilover on the bench. So what we're gonna need to do is manipulate this fitting a little bit. You have to do this with every brand. Don't be afraid of it. It's not that big of a deal. You just need 2 wrenches, a 7/8 and a 3/4. So what I'm gonna do, this shock is charged. It's fairly safe. You just don't loosen the fitting completely. But we need to get the reservoir to turn a little bit more. So what I'm gonna do is force this fitting, or not force it, but tighten it additionally. See how it twisted for us? And now it's sitting a lot flatter. So I'll keep playing with that, massage it around a little bit. You can loosen this fitting about 1 flat and it'll get where you can manipulate it easier. Always go clockwise and you won't have an issue. If a couple little drops of oil come out, you're fine. There's a whole bunch of, you know, we build them so they have plenty of oil inside of them. Not for leakage, but just for cooling purposes. If you lose a little squirt, you're still good. So I'm gonna massage this around, move this fitting, move that fitting, get it to where it sits nice and relaxed, and we'll be good to go for the rest of the vehicle life. Here's an example. I'm gonna loosen this. See how I just barely loosened it? And now I can move it around. I'm gonna get it to where it's not touching anything. Tighten it up while I'm holding the other fitting. It's kind of a finesse thing. Just take your time. You won't hurt anything and you'll be good to go. All right, rear reservoir orientation for the Tacomas. You're gonna wanna get the hose away from everything. The fitting has clearance in between here. I got about a finger's gap. There's nice clearance here over the factory bump stop bracket. What you're gonna wanna do is give it a slight bit of preload on the hose. Like I'm pushing it in just a hair, and then I'm gonna put my bracket underneath to where I like it, which is right there. Everything's nice and happy and clean. I'm going to take a marker and mark the corners and make a 90-degree, mark around the bracket so you know where its home is. Then you can pull the reservoir out of the way and put it back over those marks. And then I'm going to mark my 4 holes and pre-drill the frame with a small drill bit. I believe it's a 1/8 inch or something like that. What that's gonna do, Toyota uses really good steel on their frame rails, and it's really hard for this tech screw to drill through it on its own. So we're gonna pre-drill all those holes, then screw our bracket to it, and we'll be good to go from there. All right, you can see we've got our new shock with compression adjusters in here compared to this little skinny bleeder thing over here. Mason's got a whole bunch of weight in this truck. Yeah, look at your shaft. Stronger for sure. He has a ton of weight. He's gonna plan on putting more weight in it. And that brings me to rear spring selection. These are Devert U402s, stage 3. Don't be like the tuner guy and buy stage 10 everything, because you'll be very sad. The performance won't be there because you don't have the weight. The springs are selected to determine on how much weight you have. So he's got a truck vault and gonna put a rack on it and a whole bunch of other equipment, so he needs the extra weight carrying capacity. If you don't have anything in your bed, buy the stage 1 U402. You'll be so much happier. It's the same shock either way. The reason being is we have the compression adjusters on it, so you can dial it in for your weight payload. So super simple, intuitive, righty tighty, lefty loosey. The more you turn it clockwise, the firmer it gets. The more you go counterclockwise, the softer it gets. It's as easy as that.
So that's it in a nutshell. ADS Racing suspension, 2.5-inch reservoir shocks with clicker adjustment. Do you need to go that big with the Tacoma? Not necessarily, but as you can see by the pictures and the video, the standard Tacoma suspension is not the most robust. Now, if you don't plan on going very fast over obstacles, or you don't plan on adding any weight to the truck and it's just you and you want to go camping every now and again, by all means, your Tacoma will do the job. If you want to add a little bit more weight, you want to add a lot more weight, and you want to go faster over stuff, and you want to know that your suspension is robust enough to handle what you throw at it, you need to upgrade the suspension. And if you upgrade the suspension, you need to be able to add the appropriate suspension. There's tons of suspension manufacturers out there. King shocks, Fox shocks, Icon. I personally think ADS is the best. I've actually driven in Tacomas with Icon and Fox. Great stuff. But for the price point, locally made, good dudes over at ADS, I just think it's a better option for you. So check that out. Right now, I want to go through and show you the suspension in action. We did some good GoPro shots of the undercarriage, and I'll walk you through what I was doing while you're watching the video of how the suspension was reacting. The only thing I will say about the MCM upper control arm, there are other upper control arms that can shift, that are more adjustable. These aren't very adjustable. That you can shift the upper control arm slightly forward to give you more clearance at the firewall, which I have issue with, and I'm only running a 32.8, I believe. So that's something to also be taken into consideration. But let's go take a look at those videos. All right, so here's just a little video. I took the wife and kids out the other day at an area near my house. It's got a couple of hills, a couple nice straightaways with some whoops in it, and just to show what the suspension can do, and splice together these clips. So that first part right there and this part right here is us doing, I don't know, 30, 40 miles an hour. Again, going back to the upper control arm, it can't go incredibly fast. Not that the suspension can't handle it, but the clearance towards the firewall just isn't there without an adjustable upper control arm. But 35, 40 miles an hour, you know, through this straightaway area, and no issues. Here in a second, I got an undercarriage view of the same thing. Should be coming up right about here. And it just shows the articulation of the upper control arm, the compression of the spring and the shock. As you can see, that's the clicker adjustment to the resi. Some good articulation there. And then here, I actually went up I don't know, 20 degree, maybe 30, 45 foot hill. Pretty decent jagged rocks on the way up. So again, you can see a little bit more slow articulation on some obstacle type stuff. The rest of the video is just the shocks doing what they do. One of them is a shot from behind, and you'll see the Deaver leaf pack and the rear smooth body shocks, 2.5s, just doing their work, and it's just a cool thing to see. So I hope you enjoyed it.